Hello and welcome to the Choralosophy Podcast, a weekly podcast whose mission is multifaceted. Each week when you tune in, you will find episodes that question best practices, challenge music education dogma, facilitate conversations about touchy topics, demonstrate pedagogies, and conversations where colleagues learn from each other. This is episode 245. Want to make it on stage? Well, take choir with Zoie Lee. Zoie Lee is making a name for herself as a musical theater performer and triple threat. While on break from the national tour of Chicago, she stopped back into her old choir room to talk to me about the role music education had in shaping her career. This conversation explores the journey of a performer from their early experiences in dance to their current role in a Broadway national tour. The discussion delves into the importance of choir in developing music literacy, professionalism, and vocal technique, and much more, as well as the challenges of stage fright and the realities of working in the performing arts. Zoie and I also explore the intricate relationship between vocal training, musical theater, and the importance of choir in developing versatile singing skills, and the significance of environment and education in shaping a performer's career. We also touch on preparation and work-life balance, so don't miss a minute of this episode, including some questions from my astute students towards the end. So tune in and have your thinking stimulated and challenged, and then, of course, weigh in yourself over on the Choralosophers Facebook page, which is a private group. And the choralosophy.substack.com is the blog site where you can also weigh in on some of these topics if you choose to have an off-Facebook conversation, or you can email choralosophy@gmail.com. Choir directors, music educators, show planners, you pour your heart into your music. Shouldn't your events get the same attention? That's where Ludus comes in. Sell tickets, promote your concerts, and fundraise with ease. Selling merchandise and concessions? Ludus Retail makes in-person sales effortless. Running choir camps or workshops? They have a classes feature that keeps registration simple, and when you need help, the live support team is ready to pop up with real answers from real people. The best part? It's completely free for organizations. Thousands of music programs already trust Ludus because great music deserves more than just a ticketing system. I would like to encourage you to become a paid subscriber to this show. That's not required, but if you want me to keep doing it forever, I'm going to have those people subscribed. You can start at $3 a month, all the way up to $20 a month. And on Patreon, there's a list of different levels with different perks, so to speak. Or on Substack, you can simply upgrade your free subscription there to a paid subscription. The producers and inner circle at Patreon are Venture Studios, Brian Long, Angie Schilling, Danelle Eckert, David Kowalczyk, Kyle Peterson, Max Jackson, Michael Herron, and Steve and Kathy Kokacek. Zoie Lee.
Yeah.
Welcome back.
Thanks.
I'm so excited to have you back in the choir room after all of these years.
Yeah.
Thanks for being here.
Oh my gosh. Any opportunity to talk about what I do is awesome.
Well, I'm glad you're here. So since I've seen you here in this room last, give us the short version of what life has been like for the last however many years. When did you graduate?
2019.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right before the year
yes.
of COVID. But yeah, I graduated 2019. I moved to New York. I went to AMDA for 2 years in New York City. Did that. I actually came back to Kansas City. I worked at Worlds of Fun. That was my first professional job. Yeah. I was a dancer there. And then while I was working at Worlds of Fun, I went to an audition for Norwegian Cruise Lines, ended up booking that job, went on a ship for about a year, and then after that did Anastasia national tour for a year, and then went on another ship for Norwegian Cruise Line, and now I'm on the Broadway national tour of Chicago.
Wow. That is the fast version.
That is the fast version.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so let's go back to when you and I first met. Would have been leading into your 10th grade year of high school.
Yeah.
You were already a stage-interested kid, already a music-interested kid, but you weren't in my class in 9th grade.
No, I wasn't.
Talk to us a little bit about little Zoie and little Zoie's musical and theatrical training that kind of led you up to that point.
Yeah, so I grew up dancing. So I started dancing when I was 3 years old. Me and all my sisters trained at a dance studio in Lee Summit. And so I was very familiar with the dance world. And then I actually played cello when I was in elementary school and middle school. Stopped playing cello when I went to high school. And my friend, Hannah Swartz, she told me, you would love theater. That's what you should do when you go to high school. Because I was trying to decide if I wanted to do the dance team or if I didn't want to do the dance team. But I kind of decided that I didn't want to give up what I was doing in my ballet life. I wanted to still do all those shows and still train as a dancer at the dance studio, but I wanted to be involved in something in school. And she said, you should do theater. So my freshman year, decided to audition for The Pirate Queen, which is still one of my favorite musicals ever. It's so fun. So I auditioned for The Pirate Queen, and I realized I have to do a singing audition. So I picked a song. It was probably just something from the show, I think, and then came in. I was petrified, but made myself do it, and I sang by myself probably for the first time ever in that audition. Ended up getting cast in the ensemble of the show, and during rehearsals for that show, I remember you telling me, why aren't you in choir? Why aren't you doing choir? And I told you I just never done it before. And so I thought about it for a really long time, and with some encouragement, I decided to audition to be in the women's choir my sophomore year. So I came in here towards the end of the year, my freshman year, and said, hey, I think I do really want to do choir. Is there a way I can be in the choir? And I think you had me sing some scales probably. And then I think I sang like Amazing Grace or one of those or something, Happy Birthday. And then I was put in the women's choir for sophomore year, and that's where my choir career began.
Wow. So yes, I remember all of that. Of course, I remember it from the grown-up perspective.
Right.
Of listening and watching you sing as a ninth grader. You didn't seem to have fear. And of course, you just said, I was petrified.
I was petrified.
But of course, I don't see that if it's not on your body language. And you were, I wonder what you think back to now, like when you're an adult and you look back on little Zoe. Were you just kind of seasoned with being on stage from dance, and you were in the habit of holding yourself a certain way so that you don't seem petrified, or like what do you attribute that
I
to?
guess maybe. I mean, the dance environment is very intense, and not in my dance experience, in my opinion, wasn't a bad one at all. I never had moments of like the classic ballet mistress like yelling at me or anything like that, but it was an intense environment. It was a very competitive environment, so it forced me to have to push through nerves all the time. And I was very used to being on stage, like you've said, and so I think I have learned how to be composed without letting it shine on the outside, but I definitely was very nervous.
How does that operate in your adult performing life?
Every day.
So you still feel stage fright?
I'm nervous right now.
I can kind of tell. I'm not, only because I've done hundreds of these already.
Yeah.
But yeah, and it's interesting. So how do you compartmentalize performance anxiety, stage fright? What is your go-to? Do you have tricks? Do you have?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I have different tricks for auditions and different tricks for a show. So for an audition, usually I'm more nervous for an audition because it's material probably that's not as practiced, and it's in front of a panel, it's in a tighter room, it's just a more compact nerve box for me. Before an audition, I always say the best way to combat nerves is being prepared. So I practice as much as I can and take all the things that I have control over and make sure I feel good about all of those things. And then I just have to let everything else go. So wear an outfit that I love to wear, have a breakfast that I love to have. All of those little things can help me feel a little bit more grounded. So when I'm in the audition room, I don't have to worry about my hair didn't look the way I wanted it to, or I'm not wearing the right outfit or whatever. For a show, I have rituals that I do. Most theater people are very superstitious, and I'm definitely one of those people, but I do a handshake with one of my deckhands every night, and then I shake my stage manager's hand. I do my same warm-up, and then I do my show, and it usually works. But at this point in my contract, the show is so ingrained in my body, a lot of things could go wrong and my show would stay the same. So I don't feel the same nerves now that I did when we opened.
Yeah, in fact, since we're on that topic, why don't you tell us a little bit about what it means to be on a contract for, what is it, a year? Or like how long total have you been, or will you have done Chicago?
Chicago, I think it's a little over 10 months. Yeah, which is pretty typical for a tour. Usually a tour is about 10 to 11 months long.
So can you describe kind of the schedule, the demands of that?
Yeah, so we started rehearsal in New York City. This is like from when I got the job. So I get my contract, sign the contract. I go into rehearsals and we learn the show. Usually we start with a musical rehearsal. We learn all the music and then we start to put things on its feet, learn the choreography, learn the lines, and then we'll do like an office run, and that's when people invite different creatives, different casting directors sometimes come, friends, family all come to our office run, and that's like our like soft opening, no costumes, just in the dance studio. And then after that we opened in Alabama, so we go to Alabama and we do a week of tech, put all the lights together, all the sound and everything, and then get the costumes and the wigs and the makeup and everything, and then we open the show the next week. And then 8 show weeks and traveling, planes, bus, all that. Yeah.
It's a whirlwind.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. We're going to come back to some more of those types of things later, I think, and I'm sure some of the kids here will have some questions about that life.
Yeah.
But I want to go back to 10th grade. So you have tried out for choir, a thing you had never done before.
Never, ever done.
And not even elementary school.
No.
Correct? Okay. That's how I remember it too, and I just want to make sure. Mm-hmm. So you're trying to do choir for the first time in 10th grade. You had been encouraged to do it both by me and probably by some friends and others. Do you remember much about what it was like to jump into that environment for the very first time, and how did you feel about it at the time?
Yeah, I was reflecting on this with my mom last night because I was trying to remember things, and I was like, I feel like if I talk about it a little bit, I'll kind of start to remember things. And I started to remember that I was put in the soprano 2 section, and I had like girls around me because it was all women's choir, which I think was a big thing for me. I loved that it was just girls. That felt very safe to be in a room of only girls. And
advanced treble now, by the way. It was called women's choir.
Women's choir, yeah. Yeah. So I remember all of the girls around me. I had been familiar with a lot of them. I've known most of them like a lot of my life. So they were excited that I was there, and I was excited and nervous. And I remember like having to lean over and be like, what does he mean by that? And what does this mean? And they would help me. And I can't remember exactly who it was, but someone at some point grabbed my music and wrote the solfege for me down in my score so that I could feel like I could follow along. And she was like, I promise you're going to get this. I wish I could remember who that was, but I really can't. It was so long ago. But then I was like, oh, that really helped. So then I started doing that on all of my music, and I just like started to pick up little things, and I felt so encouraged by you and the other people in the class that I could figure this out. And I had played cello before too, which helped because I knew what the notes meant, rhythms and time signatures and all of those other things. I just couldn't read the treble clef.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, what do you remember about the rest of your choir time? So, it was, of course, you eventually ended up in Sounds of Summit after not very much time doing choir at all. And for people listening on the podcast, that's our most advanced choir. And so, typically, it's actually, I can count on one hand, by the way, ever in my 20 years here, that someone has not done choir in 9th grade and then done sounds.
Really?
It doesn't happen very often because of how much of all that stuff you just mentioned that kids would go, oh, what is going on? And so what do you remember about your progression through choir, and what motivated it, and what made you start taking voice lessons and like all of that kind of stuff and really just dove in to all that we had to offer on the choir side of the performing arts? I
think I just got really hooked really fast. And I was like, I really love this. I love now, like being an adult, I can look back. I just love being a part of things. I love to feel a part of an ensemble. I dance in an ensemble. I love singing in an ensemble. So that became really fun. I loved that you treated like all of us like professionals. I got very addicted to that environment. I was like, I feel like I can be here and be good at something. And that was very attractive to me. And I felt that I could see a progression with it. I could do something with it, and that was fun. And it was just an outlet as well. I got to do art during the school day, and that was so fun. But I was going to go somewhere else. I'm trying to remember what I was going to say.
It's okay, jump back in if you remember.
Yeah.
Okay, so in that same vein, so you got hooked on it, and of course I did not invite you here and to be on my show so that you could pump up my ego about how great choir was, but it is relevant because what I'm interested in is, other than just the ensemble aspect, what do you feel like you pulled out of that experience that you still use?
A lot of it, yeah, for sure. I remember specifically this one story I know for a fact I wouldn't have been able to do as well had I not done choir. I was asked to come in for an audition. It was for Jersey Boys for Norwegian Cruise Line, and they needed me to come in that same day, and they wanted to see if I could learn all the harmonies in this song that I'd never heard before. And so I went in they gave me the music. I kind of knew the song, but not really, and I needed to learn every single line in that score and be able to produce it. And so had a feeling they wanted me to swing, because why else would they have me do that? And so I went in, the pianist worked with me on each of the lines, and then I was expected to be able to sing each of the lines by myself in a row. Start at the top, and I went all the way down. And there was like a 4-part harmony. And I remember thinking, had I not done choir, I don't think I would be able to do that. And it happened. And even though I stopped singing in choirs a long time ago, that foundation and that training was still there. And my ear is trained to be able to hear all those harmonies. I understood how they fit together, but that's just one story. I mean, there's several.
Yeah, although I would argue that every time you sing in a musical chorus, you are singing in a choir. It's just a different venue, different setting, and different style, which I want to get to as well. So the other thing I want to ask you about, of something you made a comment about a second ago, which was that you mentioned that you felt like I treated you like professionals. What does that mean? Because I've had kids say that to me before, but I also know that, like we talked about when we first started talking, that from the adult perspective, that is always perceived differently than how students might perceive that at the time. And so what do you feel like you appreciated about it? You said you got hooked on that feeling.
Yeah, it's also something that I appreciated about my dance training as well. And I think I saw that in the choir room, and I was like, I know this feels familiar to me, and I liked it. But you gave us independence, you gave us the reins to be able, I remember doing sectionals and being given the opportunity to do the music and figure it out by myself, or figure it out as a section and then come back, and then we would get success from that by working on something. And I love that we could do that for ourselves, and you trusted us to be able to do that, and you trained us to be able to do that. And that was fun.
I think there's an expectation that goes along with it too, of that professionalism. Like the way I think of it, and I'd be interested in your reflection on this now as a student from your student years. I try to think about it as, like, I know that the kids in high school are not actually professionals, and that I'm not actually expecting them to be like a professional, but they should learn that what professionalism looks like. And so, for example, there's a progression from I'm a beginner in choir all the way up until I am a leader in a choir program. Should that expectation be different? Well, of course it should. Just like it should be different when you graduate versus when you're being paid to do that. So does that ring true, or am I just being crazy?
No, it's definitely true. Yeah. Okay. And I appreciated the environment, I guess, that we were in. We were expected to pay attention and produce what you were asking us to produce, and we were also given the tools to be able to do it. So it was very fun. I mean, it's fun to be given something, a piece of music, and then at the end of the day, we have a full song. And it took focus, and it took all of those sectionals and learning to sight read and all of those things, and then to be able to sing through a song and feel ownership over that was also very fun.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing, because I love, this is so fun. Thank you for doing this.
Yeah.
My memory lane is becoming a highway right now. But so when you said that you expected us to produce something, but then also gave us the tools to produce it. Let's just do a thought experiment. What if I had asked you to, expected you to produce it, but then not really given you the tools? In other words, let's just say, and I have a reason for asking this question. I want to go to your colleagues that you work with too. But let's say I never taught you how to read music, for example, and I just said, go learn this. Figure it out. Yeah. How does that change the professionalism expectation in your mind?
Because it was a give and take environment. If I was not given any tools, I'm not going to feel like learning something or doing something for someone who didn't meet me there. Does that make sense? Yeah. And there are certain directors that I've loved to work with because they do that, and there are certain directors that don't do that I don't love to work with, because it's very frustrating, especially in a professional setting, to be given a note or say, we expect this product from you, but they're not giving me the resources or explaining to me how to get there, or what exactly about this acting note do I need.
Do it better. That's not helpful.
Yeah. You have to have both. And I think that you can create something really, really exciting when a director says, we want to move this in this direction, and then the student goes in that direction, and they might find something else, and then the thing evolves, and then you create something really special and beautiful. And I feel like we had the opportunity to do that in choir all the time. There are certain songs that I still remember singing because they were so fun and it felt like we created it together. We had ownership over it.
Yeah, that's my favorite part about it, is getting the kids to the point where they don't need me anymore.
Yeah.
They really don't need me to, and we were doing pop and jazz auditions, and you remember that time probably, and watching kids come in and like sing stuff that I didn't help them with. I love that. It's like they have musical voices of their own that are not part of just this. So yeah, it's a beautiful thing. Okay, so then the point of my question before that I want to get to, which is your colleagues. So the people you've worked with in the professional world. Do you come across ever people who don't have some of these skills that you learned in high school? So like people trying to work professionally who don't have any music reading ability, for example, or maybe not much vocal training. Do you know people like that?
Absolutely.
Does it cause them a disadvantage? Do they have to work harder? Like, how would you?
I definitely would say yes. I mean, the thing with musical theater specifically is it's called the triple threat: acting, dancing, singing. So that is what we do. We sing, we act, and we dance all at once. And so there are people who are more trained in acting and not in the others, or more trained in singing and acting and not in dance, or more trained in dance and not the others. You know, everyone's training and upbringing is so different, and there are so many avenues that you can go. But I will say, because I had a strong understanding of music and I have a strong understanding of dance, when I was able to go to college, I was able to gain a strong understanding of acting because I had two strong pillars to stand on, and then I was able to grow something else that wasn't as strong. And then I've been able to use all three to my advantage to be able to book all kinds of different jobs.
Are you a director new to the profession, or are you a seasoned director who is in a new place? One of my favorite tips for generating interest in the program and to instill buy-in is to plan a trip. There are so many options. You can go to Orlando, you can go to Ireland, or you can perform in a parade or a theme park. You can even take the stage at Carnegie Hall in New York. Wherever you end up, not only will your current crew look forward to the trip, but younger students will count the days until it's their turn to go. If you have no idea where to start, connect with Kaleidoscope Adventures at mykatrip.com.
People who don't necessarily have strong dance training probably aren't going to audition for Chicago because they're not a strong dancer, but they might be able to audition for something like Come From Away that has very little dancing. So you can mold your career based on your strengths. However, I think that professionals who are strong in all three have a very wide range of work that they're able to do, and that is the key sometimes because there's already not a lot of work to do. That competition is so high.
I knew people in my younger days when I was doing more performing in the classical world, obviously because I'm a nerd, but that didn't read music at all, like opera singers, didn't read music at all, and had to pay someone to teach them their songs.
Yeah.
And that was like part of their business expense. They had these beautiful, amazing voices, and they were oftentimes wonderful performers and great actors and like all these things, but they had to like spend some of whatever they were earning to hire a coach.
Which we're not earning a lot, by the way.
Right, yeah, right. And so I would imagine that in a lot of ways, at least the people I knew, and that's why I wanted to get your reflection on it, the people that I knew that were in that boat, not only did they have to spend money to get help, but they also, it was time, right? So like myself, when I perform, I feel like I can take a job where somebody's going to pay me to sing in a professional choir or something like that, where they're not going to pay me a whole bunch of money, but I also know that I can just show up and like sing it right.
Yeah.
As opposed to spending 4 weekends prior to the gig studying and working and practicing and all that type of stuff. So in a lot of ways, it's like it's a job skill that translates into your efficiency and quality of life.
Yeah, definitely. And there are so many auditions happening every day in the city, and you already have to be economical about which auditions do I have time to go to, because I also have to work a job so I can live, and I need to take care of my body and feed myself. There's so many things that to do in a day, and you can't spend all day at Pearl Studios in an audition. So, and you can't spend all day in a studio learning your audition. So it is so helpful to be able to have those tools. And I will say with musical theater, we're always singing. We're not always dancing. We might not even always be acting, but most of the time we're always singing, at least.
Yeah, would you say that like for the rehearsal processes and the rehearsals that you're in, is that what gets the most time spent on it, is the singing?
I would say definitely blocking and choreography because it's visual.
Right.
So
Okay.
we need to make the show look good,
Yep.
because dancing and acting is visual, but the singing also needs to be good, obviously. But we're going to spend more time cleaning the choreography and talking about acting notes and talking about the story. We're going to spend time in the space getting the show to be cohesive and to build it. But in your time, we expect you to learn your music.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask. Thank you for saying that. So there is an expectation. Is it explicit? Do they tell you? Or is it just something everyone in the biz just knows? I've got to show up with my notes learned. Or do they put that in the contract? You will show up with notes, rhythms, like all that stuff learned. How do they communicate that?
They don't really.
They don't?
Yeah, it's just an expectation. If you are a good actor, you know your stuff.
Whether it's lines or music,
All of it,
you
yeah.
just know all of it, right?
Yeah, I mean, usually every director is a little bit different, but for the most part, if we have taught it to you, it is expected the next day that you know it, like well. So they might give it to you one day, and then the next day we might put choreography to it, and they expect you to be able to know the lyrics, sing the right harmonies, and do all of it at the same time, which is the hardest part.
Right.
Doing the choreography and singing the music correctly is the hardest part most of the time.
Yeah. I think that's an example of one of those professionalism things that I try to help choir kids learn, is regardless of what their career hope is. It's like, okay, so here's a thing that you committed to knowing, and you didn't know it last week. You still don't know it now. So what's going on?
Yeah.
Right. And just like in being able to just say explicitly, you are dropping the ball here. I mean, to me, that is sometimes kids can see that as mean, for sure. But at the same time, that we're trying to build a sense of like, okay, so in the professional world, whatever your profession is, you're gonna like have to do stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
and somebody's gonna say, why haven't you done it? And I imagine in your world, that just means that person probably doesn't get hired again.
Or you're fired.
Or you're fired right then and there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you ever seen that happen?
I've never seen it happen, but it does happen.
Okay.
Actually, I think I lied to you. I have seen it happen. I'm not going to tell you,
You
what
don't
job.
have to say
I'm not going to tell you what job it was, but it did happen, and it was more because of a dance thing, not necessarily a vocal thing. But it's the same thing.
Same
if we
idea.
teach you
Yep.
choreography today, we expect you to know it tomorrow.
Yeah. Wow. That's intense, but it makes sense. I mean, they're
Yeah.
paying you by the hour essentially, or like for your time.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so we've been talking quite a bit about the music literacy things that we've pulled out of choir, or that you pulled out of choir that you use. But now let's talk about the vocal technique stuff. So the learning how to sing, like learning how your voice functions, learning how to keep it healthy, learning how to sing in different styles, etc. So I'm going to set up the question this way, and then I want you to just reflect. I've had so many conversations over the years with musical theater interested kids who struggle to make the connection between I want to learn theater songs versus I want to learn how to sing, which are two completely different things. So for example, trying to get them to understand that when we sang that song in choir that was from, I don't know, Italy in 1722 or whatever, you actually are learning how to make your voice sound different ways. And even if you're interested in musical theater, guess what every show asks for? A different vocal production.
Yeah, it's
there's
so
a
true.
there's a different way of singing, there's a different timbre, there's a different vibe to how you're supposed to sound, and you have to learn how to be flexible. And that's what I think choir offers vocal kids, is they're asked to sing in a different way on almost every song. Thoughts about that?
Yeah, it's so true. Musical theater, every single show is stylized to a different style. It's part of how we build a show, it's part of how we tell a story. Chicago is a jazz score, or a jazz influenced score, I should say, and that helps drive the story. There are other musicals that are other styles, and they use that to tell that story. So I think learning, it's just like any other instrument. Learning how to play your instrument well will help you be able to change things and manipulate certain things to fit into a different style. And so I did Anastasia. I sing that show completely differently than I sing Chicago, because there are different styles. But because I have vocal training, I'm able to produce different sounds, different tones, different vowel shapes, even the way that we look at the music. We're going to breathe here in this place because it tells this story. If we were to breathe here in another place, it tells a different story. So we all, as an ensemble, have to be on the same page about those things. And vocal technique is what gives us access to all of those different
Yeah, I mean, that
things.
sounds very much like a choir rehearsal.
Yeah.
I mean, we talk all the same conversations that we have. I got a text from another former student actually just a couple days ago. Shout out Bryce Williams. He just got to be a musical director for a summer show.
Oh, no way.
And he's only like 20.
Yeah.
And he's teaching the music.
That's awesome.
And the first thing was like, Mr. Muntz would be so proud. I'm running a rehearsal, and it's like all the skills that we do. And then, so the way I'm very passionate about this, as you can tell, of helping people understand that style is style mutable. It's transmutable over how you sing, but the fundamentals, the concepts that we are learning in choir really translate into any area of music making. I actually think that it helps somebody who wants to be a blues singer. It helps somebody who wants to like play in jazz bars in Kansas City for fun on the weekends. Like it's developing the sense of inner musician that allow them to step into an environment where like you're in, where it's high pressure to speak a language that you kind of have to be fluent in, which is just the music itself and like how to put it all together. Is that something that you have thought much about? Like you mentioned, like since high school, in other words, like is this a topic that you come back to ever, or is it just like the water you swim in now and you don't think about it?
Like the way that I stylize things?
Yeah, how you stylize things. How easy it is for you to switch back and forth to things, or does it take a lot of mental effort? Like, how would you describe that?
Honestly, no and yes. When I'm given, so say I'm going in for Phantom of the Opera, I know how that musical sounds, so I'm going to do everything that I can to try to mimic or recreate that sound. And I'm going to pick a song that goes with that musical as well. So I'm not going to sing all that jazz at Phantom of the Opera. I'm going to sing a song that sounds like the show, and then I'm going to try to sound like one of the ensemble members in that show singing the song that I've chosen. Does that make sense? But yeah, I mean, a lot of research goes into theater. Because there's so many different kinds of stories and different characters. I have to play so many different kinds of roles. So that takes a lot of research, a lot of listening to different people sing different songs, practicing with my voice teacher. I still take voice lessons weekly almost. And not as much on the road, but I try to when I'm not working. But yeah, it does. The code switching, I guess, does get a little bit easier as you go. But
yeah, that makes sense. And you mentioned when I texted you originally about doing this, that you said, I have so many things to say about this topic, which is kind of bringing your childhood experiences into what you're currently doing. And I think since we're at it, I just love that it worked out for you to come here to do that.
Yeah.
Because of course I was originally going to have you come to my studio at my house and sit on the couch, and it would have been a lot more comfortable. Less people you don't know staring at you. But I thought, I was like, this is really a cool way to kind of to have this conversation, because in a lot of ways, kids that walk around to high school every day, I don't think spend a lot of time thinking about actually like what thing in this class I'm about to go to that I never probably ever want to go to again might I be able to pull out and use someday. Do you remember at any point in your life figuring that out for yourself, or is it all things that you just look back on and you think, oh, actually I did learn something? Like how do you, what kind of teenager were you, I guess is what I'm asking.
Yeah, well, so when I started taking voice lessons, with Susanna Wegner because she had a theater background, and I got the theater bug my freshman year. Doing Pirate Queen changed my life, literally. I was in that show and I became so addicted to theater, and I just knew that I wanted to do it as much as I could and at as high of a level as I could, because I'm an extremist and I wanted to do it all the way. But I remember every day I went into choir, it felt like I got to train for something that I wanted to do, which was cool. I'm getting emotional about that.
I love it.
Yeah, but
go there.
Yeah, I really care about my job, and it felt like in the choir room I got to do something beyond my high school career, and I do think that I saw it that way, even as a 10th grader.
I think you did too.
Yeah.
I think you did too. And I'm gonna edit this part out for those of you who are sitting and listening. If you think you might have questions for Zoe at some point, be thinking about that, because I'm gonna ask her a couple more things and then I'm gonna throw it to you guys. Okay, so that's beautiful, and I agree, and I think that you did too. And I think what I remember about you is that you were a very hyper-focused student. Which is, and I remember this very clearly, having a conversation with the assistant director at the time when we were doing sounds auditions even. Do we put Zoe in sounds? Knowing Zoe has not spent a lot of time in choir, has not learned a lot of the basics. And I said, have you seen her eyes?
Oh my gosh.
She is locked in to everything that I'm saying at all times. She'll be fine.
That's awesome. And thank you.
Of course, because that's how I knew that you would catch up.
Yeah.
Because it's not like I thought you knew everything, or I thought
I didn't know.
Like, you were ready.
I actually was shocked when I was like, I want to audition, but the reason why I want to audition is because I want to prove to myself that I can do this. And I knew that if I wanted to do theater, I needed to audition. And so that was an opportunity for me to practice. And I just have always believed in take every opportunity that you're given. And so I went and I did it, not really expecting to get put in the choir, but it was the best day ever. I loved sounds. It was so fun.
Good. Well, I'm glad. And then I want to talk also about your education after high school. Because I don't know. Well, actually, I'm going to start here. AMDA.
Yeah.
What was that experience like?
Yeah, from the audition to going.
Anything you think is important to share?
Yeah, I mean, I sang I Have Dream from The King and I for my audition. I sang that, and then I think I did a monologue, and then the auditioner, his name is Andy Leach, I said, I also am a dancer, do you need to see me dance? And he said, just by the way you're standing right now, I don't need to see you dance. And I was like, awesome. So I'll leave my Laducas in my bag, and I won't dance. And then I ended up getting a scholarship, and then that's why I decided to go. But I went to AMDA because I really wanted to be in the city, and I wanted to be a part of the atmosphere of Broadway in New York. And so I went to the musical theater program, which again terrified me because I still felt new. I still had this idea in my head that I'm still not quite a singer, even though I'd been singing a lot, but I just didn't really believe in my voice that much, honestly. But I made myself do it anyway. And I remember the night before telling my mom, I was like, I think I've made a mistake. I have to go home. This feels so uncomfortable and scary. My mom was like, you're gonna get there and it's gonna be fine. And it was. But I had 3 musical theater classes a day that were 2 hours long. I was assigned a song, had to learn the music. I had a voice teacher that would help me and learn how to act through a song. I had acting classes, dance classes. There were after school opportunities, workshops. I was invited to do shows at school. It was a very fast, intense environment. It was over in 2 years like that.
Now, didn't you do something else? Didn't you graduate high school and go do something else and then go to AMDA, or did you go straight away?
I graduated and then I worked at Worlds of Fun that summer, actually.
Right.
And as a dancer. And then I auditioned at a dance competition, actually. So I was at a dance competition. There was an audition for AMDA, and my dance teachers were like, it's another audition, you should go. And so I went. I didn't have to dance that afternoon, so I went to the AMDA audition for, it was a 2-hour dance audition. And I got a dance scholarship there. But then I decided that it would be better to go for musical theater. So I had to re-audition for musical theater. And then I got into the musical theater program. And then,
so you basically started the fall after you graduated?
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay, because I remember there being I remember you having some kind of an existential crisis about what that was going to be. So I don't know, do you remember the conversation that you and I had in the practice room? I remember that it was in the second practice room, right?
I don't know. What did we talk about?
About college.
Yeah. Oh, because I wasn't sure I wanted to go.
Correct. And I remember that you had a very intense conversation with me. And I got the sense, and if you don't remember it, it's fine. It's not going to hurt my feelings. But I remember it because I remember it was the first time I told a kid ever in my teaching career, you know what, if you don't go to college, I think that's okay.
I kind of do remember that now that you say that. We were in there. I do remember that.
I remember going, what did I just say? That's not what teachers are supposed to say. Teachers aren't supposed to say that, but it just came out.
Yeah.
But then I remember thinking all of the set of skills and the work that you had done in high school, the things that I had seen you do with dance and with theater and all those types of things, I just knew that there was going to be a path for you regardless of what you did. And so that's kind of why I was asking about the transition from high school to AMDA.
Yes, that's right.
Because correct me if I'm wrong, AMDA is not really a college. It doesn't feel like one, or is that wrong?
It's a conservatory. You can get your BFA there. You have to go to the New York campus for 2 years and then the LA campus for 2 years, or you go to the LA campus for 4 years. You can get your BFA. I chose not to because I wanted to work.
So it's more like, I mean, if you do it that way, then it's like a vocational training program. It's like here's like, job skills.
Yeah, job skills, trade school for sure. Yeah, now that you say that, I totally remember that. But my senior year, part of my like senior gift from my mom was a trip to New York, and we went to audition for cruise lines because I thought that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to dance on a boat and travel, and that was always something I was super passionate about. Was I wanted to see as much of the world as possible, and I thought cruise ships would be a great way to do that. I could dance, I could sing, make money, and see a bunch of the world on a boat. And so I auditioned a bunch when I was 18 and a few times after I graduated, and I never booked. And I was super butthurt about it, to be so honest. I was like, I was really good and I really want to do this, but it just wasn't working out. And then we went to nationals. It was my last nationals with my dance studio, and there was an audition for AMDA, and my teachers were like, you have nothing to lose, go do it. So I did, and then ended up with a scholarship and was like, I'm moving to New York, done. That's how it happened.
Wow. If you haven't already, I really think it's time for you to ditch the bulky sight reading books, the paper, all of the things that are already in the kids' folders in your classroom because it's not customizable to what they need in the moment. Sight Reading Factory allows this and so much more, including auto assessment for at-home assignments, no more grading them individually. They can be graded in the moment. So use the Choralosophy checkout code, Choralosophy. When you check out, it'll give you a 10% discount every time you get a membership for yourself and for all of your students, which is really, really important so they can do this at home. It's an incredible story, and I really appreciate you reflecting on this with me. Do we have any questions out there?
So I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit more about like your vocal training in high school.
Yeah.
Because you were talking about like you were vocal trained by someone who had like theatrical background. So was your training more like theatrical, or was it more like kind of like choir, or like classical?
It was actually very classical, very geared towards choir, because I wanted something I've always wanted is to be good. So I wanted to be good at what I was doing, and I wanted to catch up, and I wanted to excel. So I got a voice teacher because she could do both. She could teach me these are the foundations that you need to sing well and to sing in a choir. But then also on the side, we can learn this theater song together, and I can teach you how to do that too. But because I wanted to also be a soloist at, oh my gosh, I'm forgetting what it's called.
Like solo and small ensemble contest.
Yeah, contest, yes. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to sing as a soloist at contest as well. So I knew I needed a voice teacher, and I knew I needed more hours outside of school to catch up with all those students. But yeah, it was super helpful for her to have her as my teacher because she was able to help me with both things.
Just in high school as well as what you've been doing professionally now.
Yeah, this question actually reminds me, I wanted to say, I've never been the best singer in a room ever. Still today, I will probably never be the best singer in the room, but I work really hard and I can make it happen. But I say that now because I've never been cast as a lead in a musical. It's not actually something that I really want to do. If it ever happened, or if there was ever a show that it would work really well for me to be a lead in a musical, I would love to do it, but I really love being in the ensemble. But one of my favorite things that I've ever done professionally was I understudied Odette in Anastasia, and so it was really fun because I got to sing the soprano line in the show, but also be the soloist dancer in the show. And that was like really special because I felt like I got to do the dance track and I got to do the really hard soprano track in the same show. And that was super fun. But I also really love the show I'm doing now. It's so classic jazz, Chicago's iconic. So very fun.
I have to jump in because I am so glad you said that. Like that's gonna get clipped, by the way, because when you said I've never been the best singer in the room, that's something that, I mean, these kids have heard me say it, and they've, some 9th and 10th graders and a senior and in here, but you've heard me talk about that exact thing probably 100 times, which is that nobody's the best at everything.
No, absolutely.
And but at this age, for these kids, like that is so difficult to wrap your head around, like, what is my value if I'm not great at the best at this? Like, what do I even matter? What am I trying, like, why am I here? And the example that you just gave is beautiful because what you've done, and feel free to just say, don't put words in my mouth, Mr. Muntz, or Chris, you have to call me Chris now, you're not a student, but is that you found a way that all of your skills can work together to build a life, and does it make you feel bad that there's a better singer than you in the room?
Honestly, no, because
it shouldn't.
Yeah, because the thing about specifically theater too is when you go to see a theater show, when you go to see a musical, you're not going because most of the time, you're not going because you want to see a fantastic singer sing. If it's Broadway, it's going to be a great singer, obviously, because they're singing on Broadway. But a casting director doesn't cast a show and go, who is the best singer we heard today? A casting director watches all these people come through, and they're trying to decide who can tell this story the way that we want to tell the story. The director, the choreographer, the music director, they all have this idea of what this show should sound like and look like, and who is it that's going to be able to do that the best. And it always comes back down to we need to tell the story, because what's boring is when you go see a show and the singer is just standing there and singing. It's just not memorable. What's more memorable is watching someone fully embody a character and really take on what it is that they need to convey. And then that is what you as an audience member go, wow, and you remember that for years later. I mean, there are performances that I've seen, and I've never... And in those performances, you're not thinking, wow, I'm watching a really good singer. You're so enthralled with the story that's being told that it doesn't matter whether or not they sang a crazy high note or a crazy low note or a crazy cadence or whatever. It mattered more that you felt seen, you saw something, and the story really captivated you. That's why we go see theater.
Yeah, awesome. Anybody else have questions?
What do you think sets AMDA apart from other musical theater schools?
Yeah, I didn't go to other musical theater schools, so I don't really know, but I can try to answer that question. Yeah, but what was very attractive to me about AMDA, again, was that it was in New York City. That was really important to me. I wanted to be there. I wanted to be able to, after class, go watch a show and see people that were doing what I wanted to do on Broadway. And so that was just the environment of the city is something that you can't replicate at a college in like Oklahoma or wherever. So that was a big reason why I wanted to go. It also, I chose to do a 2-year program because I felt really ready to be a performer and to be paid to do what I did, what I wanted to do. I wanted to be paid to do what I do. And so that was a big reason. But also AMDA is a specialized musical theater education. So I didn't have to take math and science and literature and all of those other classes. I got to go to school all day and hone my craft, which was awesome. I got to be around other artists. I got to learn from other artists. I got to go down the street and watch some actress sing a cabaret and sing a bunch of different songs from musicals I'd never heard of. All of the atmosphere of it was what really sang to me, I guess. I didn't feel like going and doing a sorority thing, and I didn't need to do all of that. I was ready to work. That's why I went.
How did you afford New York straight out of high school?
I did get a scholarship. Had I not gotten the scholarship, I don't know if I would have gone. That was a big part of it. I actually, because I was accepted into the dance program and the musical theater program, they didn't want to give me both scholarships. They only wanted to give me the scholarship that belonged to either program. So I went and toured the school over the summer with my parents, and my mom is so fierce, and she was like, can we get a meeting with the board director? So we went into their office, and she was like, my daughter is accepted into 2 of your programs, and they're telling us that you won't give us both scholarships, and she's not going if you don't give it to her. And they were like, okay, we'll give it to her, and they did. Had my mom not done that, I don't think that would have happened. So take chances if you're given the opportunity, always take it. Yeah, I mean, I don't believe that one college or one program or one pathway is the only way to accomplish your dreams. You can do it so many different ways. And I could have gone to a college here or nearby and gotten in-state tuition or a cheaper tuition, and I probably could still be doing what I'm doing today. I think choosing the program that's going to work best for you is always the best way. You don't want to be thousands of dollars in debt and then having that weigh on you. If you're okay with that, then go for it. Everyone's experience is so different.
Yeah.
So just follow whatever your gut is telling you to do.
Do you have lots of work-life balance in Broadway, that scene?
It is.
That's a great question. That's one I should have asked.
Yeah.
I should have asked that. Yeah.
It's a great question, and it is like a daily thing that I have to remind myself. I am a workhorse. I will work myself so hard until I'm burnt out. But every job I have found is different. Every contract that I've been given has been a new opportunity for me to learn how to take care of myself. And I mean that. Every single job that I've done has a different list of demands, and I've learned so many tools along the way of how do I take care of myself? How do I go to work every day and still love it as much as I did when we opened the show? And that's really hard. Having grace with myself is something that I'm working on. Not every show is going to be the best show of my week, and that's okay. Pacing myself has been something that I've been working on. And just like listening to your body. I really believe that when you're coming down with illness, like you can feel it. Or like, I think probably tomorrow I'm going to wake up with like a sore throat and I'm going to have a fever. It's the same way with burnout. If you feel yourself starting to go there, go do anything else. Like go watch a movie with a friend, or don't dance for a full day. I've given myself no dance days. Like today is a no dance day. I'm not looking at myself in the mirror. I'm going to do like a normal person thing today so that tomorrow I might feel a little bit better about going to dance class. And it's something that you have to do for yourself daily. I have to remind myself all the time, I should be sleeping 8 hours, and I maybe don't need to sing today. And today I don't need to wear 3-inch heels and be in a dance class.
Do you have outside of I'm going to shut work off rituals? What are some of your go-tos?
Jeans.
Like wearing jeans?
Wearing jeans. I'm
Really?
so serious. Yes. Because it's a really weird one, but it's true. It's a really weird one. Wearing my hair down. Anything to make me feel like outside, like I'm off the clock. You know what I mean? Like you wouldn't wear probably an outfit that you wear to teach in, like on a Saturday night, necessarily.
Yeah, jeans do make me feel like I'm on vacation. So
Little things like that. And specifically being in Manhattan, it is so hard because there are actors, dancers, singers everywhere. The city is crawling with them, and I'm constantly reminded of there are so many people in a dance class right now. I should probably be in a dance class because I should be working. But most people, they go to work and then they go home. Whereas artists, we feel this need to continue to keep going all the time. So anything that I can do or wear or eat that day that feels like I don't need to go to rehearsal today makes me feel a little bit more free from that. If I put on jeans, I can't even go to steps because I can't dance in jeans, I guess. I don't know.
They're armor.
Yeah.
Does anybody else have a question for Zoe? Yeah.
Has there ever been a time where you have disagreed with how people have thought to tell a story in a show?
Well, that's an interesting
Yeah,
question.
Disagreed
Artistic
with an
disagreement with the director or something.
Yeah, this is a really interesting conversation and something that a lot of people have different opinions about, honestly. It really depends on who you ask about this, but probably, for sure. There's been times where I've felt like I want to deliver the line this way, and then the director is like, that's not quite the intention that we're going for. We want you to do it this way. And I may disagree with them, but they're the director and they're paying me to do this job. So I have to do what they ask. Yeah. And I'm an artist and I'm allowed to have ownership and opinions about the art that I create. But at the end of the day, I'm the vessel in which the story is being told. So the story is not mine. The story was written by Kander and Ebb, for example, Chicago. So it is their story. I am just the person that has to tell it. Whatever the music director says that the show should be is the way that it goes. I can feel however I want to feel about it, but it's my job.
That is an interesting perspective because that discussion happens in choir director world too. The same exact discussion, like the soprano doesn't want to sing the line with that timbre or whatever, and they make those certain types of decisions. But I think I like the way you said it. It's Kander and Ebb's story. They had a vision to tell, and everyone I think you would agree with this based on the way you just described it. But every artist along the pipeline between the writers of the show to the audience are going to have their own input into what that is to some degree, but
Yeah.
I mean, you are being hired by the
It is my
person,
job.
so that is your job to do that.
Yeah.
That's really good. Okay, so here's how I'd like to wrap this up. If you could kind of give some final thoughts to, and of course after we're done, if you want to grill Zoe as much as she's willing to let you, that's fine. But if you could speak to the hypothetical high school kid who maybe they don't want to take the choir class at their school because they want to do Broadway. And they don't sing the right kind of music in choir. It's not the kind of music I want to sing.
I think.
How do you talk to that kid?
Well, why don't you want to take choir? Would be what I'm asking. And if their answer to that is, well, it's not the style, it's not the same, I would say that is untrue. That's just false, in my opinion. I mean, I think that's just false. But I think that if you want to do theater, an environment like choir is the perfect place to try to learn how to do that. I sing in an ensemble every day. That's my job, is to sing in an ensemble. And I am really good, because I was in choir, I'm really good at knowing how to blend and understanding where my harmonies fit in. And it's all the same. Music is the same. Music is music.
Yeah.
So I think you should take choir, because also, to me, I have just as much fun singing in a choir as I do singing in a musical. To me, it's the same. Yeah.
That's
I just
beautiful.
want to perform.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Can we thank Zoe?
Thank you.
Thank you so much for doing this. Okay, thanks everybody for coming to do this. You can kill that now. Awesome.
Gosh, thank you for having me. It was really fun.
Thank you so much for sticking around to the end of a conversation. If you are still hearing my voice, that means you're one of the MVPs, one of the diehards, one of the real ones, as the kids say. So if you are willing on the way out to check out a few different ways that you can help me continue to make this show high quality. One, use the promo code. That's the biggest one. At Sight Reading Factory, at mymusicfolders.com, at mychoirropes.com, at graphitepublishing.com, and endeavormusicpublishing.com. All of those take the Choralosophy checkout code. And of course, now the newest one is 3-Minute Theory. You can get a 15% discount when you enter Choralosophy at checkout there. And of course, going to Apple Podcasts and leaving a positive review is very helpful there, and sharing the episodes to your colleagues in real life and on social media. All of those things are incredibly helpful and allow me to continue to create this resource for you. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you next time.